Olivia Wilde's long-awaited film that's had the internet's undivided attention for the most part of the year was released last month on the 23rd of September. Before the movie even had a chance to grace the silver screens, critics had already gone up in arms with the increasing gossip of cast-driven drama. In today's video, we'll discuss the plot of Don't Worry Darling and what about it had us worried. Let us begin. First, let's talk about the plot points that led to the film's plot twist. The film begins with the rosy life of an amicable Alice, played by Florence Pugh, wife to a handsome Jack, starring Harry Styles. Against the simmering heat of the California desert, Victory, the town where all the wives of men like Jack live, sits pretty in a fashion inspired entirely by the 1950s. The suburban living is made reminiscent of a mid-century family, where the wives spend their days contentedly caring for their homes, vacuuming, polishing, and lounging around their manicured houses. While the wives are confined to Victory, the husbands are off to work, which is largely kept a secret from their spouses. In their absence, earthquakes and weird noises rattle the neighborhood. The central point in the plot is the one Darling does nothing to conceal. It makes no effort to hide that something is amiss, mainly in the cookie-cutter suburbia. Despite her sweet life with her husband Jack and her budding social life with neighborhood wives, she's plagued with a feeling of something being very wrong. A series of events build up to the reason why Alice is becoming so hyper-aware of the cracks in her picture-perfect life and Victory. One of these is the suicide of one of the neighborhood wives, Margaret. Seeing her eventual collapse leaves Alice feeling off balance. Suddenly, we're met by a shaken Alice who struggles to run errands in the wake of many disturbances surrounding her. This succession of suspicious events that rouse Alice from her spellbound life is what Darling does really well. Over time, viewers are gripped by the tension rising in the film. Next, what the plot twist really is. If you've yet to watch the film and would not like a spoiler, head back right now before we nosedive into endless spoilers. The buildup of slowly rising tension combusts as Alice meets the infamous Frank, who is not only a celebrated figure of the neighborhood, but is also its cult-like leader. When Jack lands a promotion in the work he's been doing, Alice confronts Chris Pine's character Frank. When Alice accuses Frank of making choices on behalf of the population without garnering consent, he admits it. Trouble comes when Alice does what anybody would do, plead with Jack to run away from this strange town and be with her. On the eve of their planned escape, Alice is allowed by Jack to be taken away by suited men. She's electroshocked to remove her sudden awareness, but it manifests into what appears to be a memory. She works at a hospital and comes home to a different Jack, a disheveled Jack, peering over a computer setup, angry about Alice's long hours and their lack of intimacy therein. He then starts listening to Frank's incel-like a philosophy on his headphones. The twist is that Victory is a virtual reality project for men who can plug themselves and their chosen love interest into a virtual 1950s suburbia, where women are assigned domestic roles and men go to work and at some point return to reality. Some of this is done without the consent of their partners, such as in the case of Alice. Next, let's look at some plot holes we've identified so far. How does Jack get Alice into the simulation without her knowing? Immediately upon her return from electrotherapy, she forces Jack to reveal what he'd been up to in Victory and what was really happening. He eventually confesses that he signed Alice without her consent for the Victory project. Once he had them both plugged into the project, he'd routinely leave the simulation to make real money in the real world so that the program would keep running. He explained that this was the work he and the other husbands had been doing, and he signed Alice up to free her from her miserable life at the hospital. Alice is exasperated at the fact that the person she loves could make such a decision on her behalf when she truly loves her job and life. The real reason she realizes why Jack did this to them was because he wasn't satisfied with their life. The plot hole we feel at this instance in the story is, how did Jack manage to get Alice to plug into the simulation? And why is he so self-aware when they're inside Victory while his wife is not? It is also not entirely clear how Alice and Margaret suddenly start becoming self-aware and gain consciousness, leading to the eventual disruption of this ruse. Can you kill people in real life if you kill them in Victory? And are the guards real? Near the end of the film, Alice murders Jack in the simulation out of anger. This ends up killing him in real life too, but it's not entirely clear why this happens. When we watch Alice storming into the headquarters of Victory, we see a lot of armed guards, but the film does little to reveal who they are. Are these guards a virtual reality gimmick, like the houses and the trees, or are they self-aware? If they are real people who have chosen to be a part of the simulation, why do they keep the women trapped there? And what do they get out of it? These questions are something Darling refuses to answer because it simply doesn't dig deep enough into them. Why do earthquakes and disturbances happen in virtual virtual reality. If you look closely into the film's climax, it's hard not to spot instances that need explanations. One such instance is when the women see and feel noises and earthquakes while inside the simulation. If the simulation is entirely a world made of Frank's imagined reality, why does Alice see a plane crash in the desert? And why does she hallucinate inside the virtual experience when it's not in touch with reality? It doesn't really add up if you think about it. Why would someone be able to hallucinate and see trippy visions when they're plugged into virtual reality? Similarly, why would Frank and his Goonies use electrotherapy on Alice when it achieves the opposite of the desired result on her? Because of these therapies, does her real brain suffer any repercussions? While we can't really answer these questions, the film doesn't either, and it thus falls short of delivering its original vision for the script. Now, moving on to other news. The spicy scandals around Don't Worry Darling. The behind-the-scenes drama surrounding Olivia Wilde's film has been more than plenty. At the same time, that's nothing new, and films have always had drama behind the scenes. Don't Worry Darling's drama just happened to overshadow its actual premise. Among the many instances of gossip, one was about Olivia Wilde leaving her longtime partner Jason Sudeikis for her colleague Harry Styles. People suspect that her relationship with Styles began on the set of Don't Worry Darling. That makes the whole news much more salacious because soon after, Sudeikis served Wilde divorce papers, while her promotions for the movie were going big. Some rumors have also suggested that while Olivia Wilde has constantly praised and uplifted Florence Pugh, the star has not been seen returning her affection. Not only did Pugh not participate in any of the promotional activities, but she's also reported to have been upset that her performance has been reduced to just her intimate scenes in the film. The tensions between the director and the stars have threatened the film's fame. It is not entirely clear if the drama surrounding the film encouraged people to watch it or avoid it altogether. Regardless of the rifts and alleged disagreements between the co-stars, the movie has made a reasonable debut and just might earn back its entire budget of $35 million. Up next, Kim Kardashian wants to be friends with the Don't Worry Darling star. After Florence Pugh's dynamite performance in Olivia Wilde's latest film, Kim Kardashian was reportedly so impressed that she expressed her desire to become a part of the actress's social circle. The reality TV star has been praising the rising star's acting talent. She's told all her friends about how impressed she was by Pugh and that she'd like to befriend her in person. Kardashian not only loves Pugh's acting and charisma, but she's also a fan of how physically attractive she really is. While the two have a couple of mutual friends and often are present at the same social events, they've never really hung out. People who know her say Kim will do anything to get to know Pugh. Finally, people don't like Harry Styles as an actor. While Harry Styles is not a small name in the music world, he's not been received as well as he'd hoped in the acting world. The pop star has dipped his toes in films before, from what we've seen of him in Christopher Nolan's film Dunkirk, but this season he graced the silver screen in a lead role. Critics say his performance didn't translate the tension that we'd hoped for the character he played. The film doesn't lean on playing him the bad guy, but his performance is somewhat short of what Florence Pugh and Chris Pine served. In comparison, makes him look bad. Fans, however, are much more merciful than film critics, and the film seems to be doing surprisingly well considering the criticism it has received. That's a wrap for this video. What do you think about the Don't Worry Darling's plot twist? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you at the next one.